Get this, adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Wondery. Greenlight.com/Wondery.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Rakuten is the smartest way to save money when you shop because you earn cash back at over 3,500 stores. Fashion, beauty, electronics, home essentials, travel, dining, concert tickets, and more. Your favorite stores like Lowe's, Levi's, and Nike pay Rakuten to send them shoppers, and Rakuten then passes on a part of that payment to its members as cash back. You're already shopping at your favorite stores. Why not save while you're doing it? It's a no-brainer. Membership is free and easy to sign up. Get the Rakuten app now and join the 17 million members who are already saving. Cashback rates change daily. See Rakuten.com for details. That's Rakuten. Your cash back really adds up.
You know, I love that. And I think people need to really start thinking of it in those terms. And like, for instance, I feel like after I got out of, my depression, I really thought, okay, I need to discover who I am because I don't know who I am and I don't know why I'm here. And that's kind of what led me to fall into a depression to begin with is trying to look good to other people, trying to fit into society, and that's not working. So I need to figure out why I'm here. And I think I just was born with this sense of I have to contribute to humanity in some way. And it's not like, I'm trying to change the world and, this cause is hot right now, so I'm going to hop onto that bandwagon. And this cause is hot right now, so I'm going to hop in onto that bandwagon. I don't operate like that. I figured out, I believe, why I'm here. And I believe one of the reasons why I'm here is to talk about why confusion is your virtue and you don't need to be ashamed about not having all the answers. I think I'm here to talk about the importance of going inward and not running through life trying to find validation and purpose in the superficial and in the external things. I'm really about going inward is where everything lies inward. And then from that place, you create what you really desire.
That's Giovanna Silvestre, author of Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos, whose blog, Confused Girl, allowed her to share her story of navigating her emotions and uncertainty and approaching the world with a curiosity that helped her find her way. This is the Silver Linings Handbook podcast. I'm Jason Blair. Giovanna Silvestre likes to say that people are, quote, imperfect and inventively flawed. And she said she believes that our beauty is found in our flaws. Growing up in San Luis Obispo, California, Giovanna became a successful travel blogger, founded a brand of yoga wear, has written a book, and become a social media influencer in her own right. As an influencer, Giovanna has worked with major brands, including Coca-Cola, Target, Walmart, Match.com, Crocs, and T-Mobile. Giovanna's blog, Confused Girl, was originally born out of a feeling of loss and confusion, which inspired her to create an outlet to share her feelings with others. Her first video blog wasn't meant to change the world or get attention, but just to explore new and interesting things she had not done before, to let go and find new and unexpected things in life. Her interactions with others online led her to realize that many women, in particular, feel stuck, unworthy, and lost, and have few healthy and safe outlets. In her new book, Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in Chaos, Giovanna makes the case that one of the key parts to finding yourself is letting go of some of our ambitions, our expectations of ourselves that are driven by the wants, needs, and perceptions of others, to embrace uncertainty and take an openness to new ideas, to explore ourselves and to explore the world around us. Giovanna also describes in her book a transformative journey from an ego-driven early Hollywood career, as she called it, to self-acceptance and peace. Before starting her travel blog, Giovanna worked in the entertainment industry in a variety of roles, including working for directors like Kenneth Branagh, who directed Thor, with filmmaker Peter Jackson's production company, and as a post-production coordinator on ABC's show The Mole. I've long been interested in social media influencers, people who build grassroots online presences through engaging content, directly interacting with their audiences, and standing apart from traditional celebrities by growing their platform online through social media instead of traditional avenues like movie studios and record labels. I've been curious about how and why people become influencers, what it takes to do the job, and what people hope to accomplish beyond recognition and revenue. Today, we're going to talk about why people become influencers, what Giovanna feels can be done differently, what it means to be an influencer in today's modern world, and what obligations you have toward other people's health and wellness. We're also going to talk about how to manage the balance between personal life and professional life, and how to stay true to yourself while having a brand and an audience. But mostly, we're going to talk about the dangers of losing yourself to the expectations of others and how to find a better way. Hey, Giovanna, I just wanted to thank you for joining. You really captured my imagination in a number of different ways. One, your book did, your social media presence did. I have, I think, long been fascinated by how social media influencers come alive and what motivates them and what drives them. And then the conversations I saw you having around topics like being a woman or mental health, I could really tell that you deeply care about using your platform to do some good. So I thought you would make a great guest because it's a combination of like really important issues and really trying to understand how, like in my mind, this is just my take, how we can turn this world we now live in into something that's really good for people. And that was sort of my takeaway in seeing your presence, your profile. So I just wanted to thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jason. I'm so happy to be here. And that was a fabulous intro. Love it. Thanks.
You wouldn't be the first person who's like, Jason, could you be my spokesman?
In my pocket and whip you out and out.
Well, it's all from the heart, and all genuine. Um, I was just thinking to myself, as tempting as it is to jump into the burning questions, I think sometimes we forget to like rewind the tape and sort of like talk a little bit about about how we got to where we are. I really, I was interested in your sort of backstory, what it was like to sort of grow up and start your initial career in Hollywood, and what sort of your hopes or dreams were growing up and during that time, and how you saw your future back then.
It's interesting because I've actually thought about that quite a bit. And I think, I kind of wanted to do as a child the typical things, like be a princess or be or be an actress. I was like I was a very creative child. I would put together plays in my house with my sister and like reenact the nativity for my parents. I I would write poetry. I wrote poetry when I was 10 years old, and I won a bunch of awards actually for the poetry that I wrote.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, and I would design clothes too. I would kind of sketch out dresses and clothes. And so, and I would even like with the neighborhood children, I like started a club and I was like, okay, on Mondays we play volleyball. On Tuesdays we put together a play. On Wednesdays we dance. Like, actually, I'm kind of like, I should do that now. That would be really fun. But I was just always very creative and very curious. I was always very curious little girl. I was always asking my parents, why? They were so annoyed with me. Why? And I remember we'd go to Italy a lot in the summer because my father's from Italy. So we'd go and visit my family there. And we had this like old school, 90s style camera. And I was like, film me. And I was like, I am in Italy and I am here to ask people what the meaning of life is.
Oh, you were prepared for today.
And so I think it's really interesting because I was already thinking about that, as a young girl. I think I maybe junior high when I was thinking about what's the meaning of life. And interestingly enough, that got very much cut off. I think it was high school and then college. I became like totally left brain and I became a great multitasker. And I kind of cut off my creative side and I just stopped doing creative things altogether. And even though I was really great, I used to be really great at, speaking in public. And actually in high school, I would do debates and I would learn these like 10-minute speeches and go recite them to people. And I would win awards for that too. But in college, I was freaked out by going up in front of everyone and speaking. I didn't want to do it. I hated it. It really scared me. And I just had cut off that part of me. And entering in the entertainment industry, I was more interested in, I would say, like being a producer and, having a credit in the film versus being an active creative participant in the film.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, okay, I think the creative side of me, I just had shut off. I don't know. I
Wait,
thought,
it's interesting you say that because as you were saying that, I was thinking of the psychologist from Vienna, Carl Jung. He writes about this idea that we all have this shadow.
mm,
And as adults, the sort of shadow that follows us. And what his theory is that it was that it comes from our childhood, that when we're children, regardless of what side of the pendulum we're on, whether we're mischievous or creative or whatever it is we are, or really inquisitive, um, that the world pushes us sort of to the middle. So it pushes creative kids to being a little more practical and pragmatic. And the world pushes like more pragmatic people toward being a little bit creative, right? So we can be successful. Mom, dad, school, everybody sets these expectations that push us a little bit away from that part of us that was there as a child. but that part of us that was there as a child stalks us like a shadow. And what he said is, eventually in life, you should learn to let your shadow walk beside you, and ideally you should embrace it, because if you don't, it is going to stalk you and it is going to upend life. And I couldn't help but think of that idea of that to be successful academically in other ways, you had to sort of suppress your shadow a little bit.
Oh my gosh, you said that so beautifully, and it's so true. And I write about this in my book as well. And it's because everything at some point becomes a means to an end. So I remember, because I went to private Catholic school. So when I was a freshman in high school, they were already asking me what college I was going to go to. And that's like a lot of pressure. Like I'm a freshman and you're already asking me about college. And so it was this, you got
Can
to
we also
college.
can we note that this is at the same time where you have to ask for a hall pass to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly.
What else are you? And I don't trust you to go to the bathroom, but what are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Yeah, you can't wear jeans, you can't wear your skirt like more than I think 3 inches above your knee. Like we had lots of rules. And but yeah, you're asking me what college I want to go to and what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it was very overwhelming. And I am I think all kids want to make their parents proud. I do think there might be an extra emphasis because my father was an immigrant to this country and worked really hard so he could give us like a good education and we can go to college. Like I'm the first in my immediate family to go to college. So, there was that extra, I have to make them proud. I have to do right by honor my family, which is a beautiful thing, but it's also a lot of pressure. And you're right, to succeed, in math and all of these other things, you kind of do have to shut off. You're like, the creative side is not going to make me money. It's not going to get me where I want to be. Like, I'm not going to, because when you think of creative, what do you think about? You think about, are you an amazing singer? Which actually, I was a good singer, but I wasn't, Christina Aguilera. I wasn't a Mariah Carey, and then, or it's like, I'm not Picasso, like I'm not good at drawing, I'm not good. So we have a very narrow view of what creative is. And I explore that in my book and I say, actually everything in this world is creative because everything is created. It's like the way you walk, even the way you walk is creative because you have a unique walk, you have a unique aura, you have a unique voice. I mean, now the baby.
I mean, even think about those other things like math or language. Someone had to go out there and roll the dice. Like there was a point where no one, knew which mushrooms we could eat and were poisonous. And someone had to take the risk of figuring it out and come up
Yeah.
with a system. Someone had to figure out that 1 + 1 = 2. Like all of these things are rooted in creativity, which is rooted in aesthetics and science. It's where it meets. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no,
It's cool.
no, you're so 100% right. And I even think, if you're a scientist, you're creative. That's what I'm saying. Our view of creativity, like numbers are being creative with numbers is creativity. It's everything we do is creative. And once you start to understand that and see that, then your whole life becomes a bit magical because you're constantly a creator within your own life. So, but anyway, I got to a point where I had kind of, I'm like and another thing I want to say about creativity as well. I do believe that true creativity is you doing something out of curiosity and a desire to discover, which originally comes from being confused about something. Be confused about a mathematical equation. You might be confused about something. So you go on this process of discovery, and that is the creativity.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. And And oh gosh, I forgot what my next I've been doing this a lot lately where I'm like on a good roll with something and I have like a great point and then and then I'm like, "Oh shoot, what was the point?" And actually I was listening to an astrologer and she said that you're not crazy. She said it's because of the planets and the cosmos right now. So I was like, "Blame it on the planets and the cosmos."
Mercury is in retrograde yet again.
My
Six.
head is full of air right now because of it.
It's
Okay. Okay, I
oh,
remember
what you were talking about, that idea that creativity is rooted in this idea of curiosity, and
Mhm.
curiosity really sort of intersects with this notion of confusion, that we're confused about something. And I'm thinking right now of you as a little kid asking why, or for your nativity play or whatever it is, but you as that little kid having a question, being curious
Yes,
about something.
exactly,
You know,
and actually,
and I was just going to say one quick thing about that, that I thought when you said the word confused, one of the things that I thought about was how, as kids, being confused about something and being curious isn't something that we judge. But at some point, that does change.
Oh,
We start judging that. Okay.
yes.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh my gosh, no, that's beautiful, I love that. Yeah, so I remember now my main point is that in that it and like you're saying, as a child, when you're curious about something, you're not going, "Well, what is this gonna get me? Is this a means to an end?" You're just on this journey of discovery, and I don't think real creation is kind of like, there's this end goal that I must achieve. The achieving is in the journey of discovering new things, at getting better at it, at getting closer to it. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And you have to have joy in the discovery process and the curiosity. And I love what you said about a child in confusion, because a child is just like, "What is this?" And they're just looking at it and they're like so innocently trying to figure it out. And I actually think that's the way that us as adults should go through life. I think what happens is we feel like we should have all the answers and that we should know better. And then but what happens is when you walk around the world like you know everything, you're limiting your wisdom, because what are you discovering? You can't discover anything
Mm.
if you think you already know everything.
Yeah. Or you can't discover anything on the other side of it if you believe that the world isn't going to accept you not knowing. And I'm thinking of something like imposter syndrome, that
Mm,
if you feel like you have to pretend that you know everything,
uh-huh.
um, because you're sitting at the table thinking you're the only one who doesn't know, which is really true. Usually I've found everyone at the table doesn't know the thing that the person who has imposter syndrome is afraid to ask. But but if you mask that, and don't ask the questions and don't explore, you lose out, to your point, on discovering so much.
Yeah, you really do. And the thing is it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how much money you have or fame you have or how much you don't have. Confusion is going to hit you, because nobody comes into this world with a manual on how to do their life. Like, there's no manual on, when I came into this world, Giovanna Silvestre's life. Best way, best practices. Like there's no,
Right.
it's like you come in here to this family, to this society, to this country, to this religion or lack thereof. And and then it's like, okay, so what am I doing here? How do I navigate this? And instead of that being a scary thing or a thing that we become ashamed of, why can't we look at it with a tinge of excitement and look at our life like one great adventure and experiment?
And so I'm guessing, just sort of jumping back to something you were saying before, like when you went off, you went off to try and find jobs in it sounds like the film industry for the most part, that when you
Mhm.
did that, you were giving up, which is kind of interesting. You're going into a highly creative field, but not in highly creative roles, and sort of giving up some of your pursuit of the new and some of your, is that fair where you were
Yeah, I
getting?
mean, it's interesting because, this is all very like subconscious when you're doing this. I wanted to go in the entertainment industry because especially at I mean, now LA has a tech industry. You have a pretty big finance industry. You have other things now. But kind of when I went into the entertainment industry, that was the thing to do in LA. That was the group that you want to be a part of. Now it's kind of like the group you don't want to be a part of, especially
Po-
like
Post me too.
yeah, with all the stuff coming out, you're like, okay, actually, no one wants to do that anymore. But when I went into it, it was like, oh, you want to be a part of the cool club. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to look cool to other people. I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Like, I just had lunch with so and so today, like some big celebrity, which happened. And I I it was it was never I did not go into it because I really wanted it. I went into it because I thought it made me look good. And I wanted to look good. And I didn't know who I was. And I'm so grateful for it because it was such an amazing experience. It taught me to have tough skin. It taught me a lot about how to navigate different personalities. I mean, it was such a great thing. And it was also a great thing to go into it, wanting to look good to other people because what I realized is that I can't live my life trying to look good to other people. That doesn't work for me because I ended up in a big depression and
Mm.
I was very unhappy and I'm like, why am
So
I
sort of, you felt like you were living your life for other people to please them or to get their attention. What do you think was going on there?
well, I think I was living my life, yeah, to please other people because especially in the roles that I was in, like I was an assistant to some very big people and in my early 20s and I was on the fast track to becoming a producer because that's what I wanted to do at that time. And um it was all just about, okay, I have to people please them so that I get promoted and I can keep moving forward. And by the way, most of the women and most of the people I worked for two men, but and no one sexually harassed me. No one was in it. I actually worked for really great men. The two women though verbally abused me. But I love them too. They were great in their own right and very loyal, but they were very tough. And I understand why they were tough. They were trailblazers. It couldn't have been easy.
Oh, well,
But
and not a uncommon thing. We used to joke. I grew up all over the East Coast and went to school at the University of Maryland. And we used to joke that the county that the University of Maryland's in is called Prince George's. That if you get pulled over by a Prince George's cop, uh, drive to Montgomery County and go to a police station there and turn yourself in. But what as a black person, they said better not get pulled over by a black cop. And I got exactly what it was. I think certain minorities, women who sort of blaze into new spaces can be even harder on
yeah,
other people who are in that, and that's not to excuse things that are abusive. I mean, and it can cut both ways, right? Like there are certain industries where there's only going to be one woman who
yeah,
rises to a certain level of a company, so it becomes this like it can become this twisted mix of like both keeping people down and also getting mad when they make mistakes. And I mean, there are many ways that I feel like men and women suffer and struggle in similar ways. But I do think for women and a lot of racial minorities, it's compounded by the fact, like a simple way to look at it is, again, not excusing anything, that as a woman growing up in an industry like Hollywood or in finance, you are absorbing the trauma of the women who came before you. And sometimes you are on the battering ram end of it. Um, so it's not easy.
Yeah, no, I love what you just said. Yeah, it's kind of like they have to assert themselves, and what I noticed about the two women I worked for, which is so interesting, is they were so overly aggressive and so overly tough and so abusive and a little wacky. And I think having like surviving, and they're incredibly successful, like really successful. I think to survive, especially when they started, which was the 70s, right? They were there in the 70s, and I mean, you imagine it's all men, and they're like this like cute woman, like cute young woman coming into an atmosphere that's all men. 100% they got sexually harassed. And they didn't even look at that as probably like it's just men,
Price
it's
of
like this is what
admission.
you gotta deal with.
Yeah, price of admission. I
Yeah.
remember when I was working at the New York Times, there was a woman who was a leading journalist there who once said, "I need to be tougher than all the men, and you need to be smarter than all the white men." And if I'm tougher than all the men and you're smarter than all the white men, we'll get 90% of the respect we deserve. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's true, it's true. There's like a price of admission, like you said, like, I mean, it's, it wasn't easy, and that's I did understand that even as a girl in my early 20s out of college, like, I respected these women, and I understood, and I knew, you know, it like, I'm on their shoulders too. And it's so interesting because even if you watch the Martha Stewart, documentary, it's like, "Oh my god, she's amazing," but I would never wanna work with her. She'd be such a tyrant to be employed by her. And I just see her and, the way she talks about how she worked on Wall Street, in her 20s,
Mhm.
and she's like, "I won't even go into what happened in the back seat of taxis with these men." I'm sure they were so inappropriate with her, but, again, she's just like, "Okay, that's the way they are," and then and she was tough and she became really tough and she did learn a lot from them. And then she went on to start her own brand. And I mean, Martha Stewart, I mean, talk about a tough lady that did not give and did not stop. I mean, she's it. But when I look at Martha Stewart, I don't see happy. I don't see joy. I don't see a way of being that I want to be. And it was the same thing with these ladies I worked for. I was like, I do not want to end up like that. If that is the cost for admission, I will bow out now. And granted, I do think my generation and especially this next generation coming in, well, they'll have it a lot easier. Like it's definitely not going to be as bad as it was for sure because of the way things have changed so much. Thank God. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't want to end up like that. I was like, I don't want to be hard. I want to be soft. I'm very intuitive. I'm very sensitive. To survive in that arena, you have to use your intuition to kind of see what they do next or what they want next or what's going to happen next because there's always like a shark coming out like trying to take you down. And that's going to harden you as a person. And I'm like, I don't want to live like that.
And there's, I guess, an advantage to creating your own space, right? Like starting your travel blog, creating your own space, um, where you could be who you were. Now, there's no guarantee there that anybody will adopt it, but it gave you an opportunity at least to sort of be who you wanted to be. And I was just thinking about what you were saying and thinking about how difficult it is for young women, and really all women, um, today still, even though things have gotten better. And I'm sure, generations to come, they'll get better. But I don't, I'm not so Pollyanna to think that, you know, it's going to be anytime soon where we truly have an equal experience, men and women. Um, and it reminds me of something that you said in your book. You talk about the idea of young women often feeling unworthy and lost or stuck. And a lot of people attribute that, and I think somewhat unfairly, right? Because I think that this existed before social media, but a lot of people talk about how social media, like the studies Facebook did on Instagram itself and women, teenage girls' perceptions of themselves, or other studies that have been done on TikTok. They attribute some worsening of that anxiety to social media. And that was actually one interesting thing I found about your presence. It was sort of like trying to reverse that a little bit, to fight against that tide.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Like, can you explain to me a little how so? Like with my social media?
Yeah, because what I was thinking is, unlike a lot of spots in social media, um, I think like your images feel like you. The people that you're on there with seem like real people. Um, there's not a lot of, I think, either virtue signaling or making it all about appearance. It's just the real you. You can just tell it's the real you. You're not glamour shotting it for people in the sense that you're just being who you are. And
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of an interesting approach, to be able to get so many followers for just being who you are.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for saying that because I definitely never want a virtue signal ever. I really despise virtue signaling. I think it's gotten out of control. and and I
Yes.
don't I don't think you should be really discussing these like certain things unless you're really actively involved and it's a big part of your life, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
I just to go out and hold a sign or to whatever, I just think it's like you're following the trend, like you're a follower and you're just
Yeah. Well, and also it does this weird thing of amplifying this idea that people really care and are behind an issue, and then all of a sudden we don't see change, right? And we
Mhm.
wonder what happened. And I think that it can be it can both be self-deceptive and in a way deceptive to other people. And I get the temptation, right? In the moment, it's really easy to feel passionate about something. But, it goes back to that, how who used to say to Winnie that, like, love is not what you say, it's what you do. I think,
Mhm.
like, virtue, two key things about virtue, I think, are it's not what you say, it's what you do. And it's really hard to have virtue. Uh, Virtue isn't virtue without vice. It needs to be tested, it needs to be tempted. It it requires us walking through a crucible and still holding to our values. And by that, I just mean that if you're not willing to pay a price for what you believe in, whether
Yeah.
it's financial or friendship or whatever it is, then how strongly do you really believe in it?
I love that. And I think people need to really start thinking of it in those terms. And like, for instance, I feel like after I got out of, my depression, I really thought, okay, I need to discover who I am because I don't know who I am and I don't know why I'm here. And that's kind of what led me to fall into a depression to begin with is trying to look good to other people, trying to fit into society, and that's not working. So I need to figure out why I'm here. And I think I just was born with this sense of I have to contribute to humanity in some way. And it's not like, oh, I'm trying to change the world, and oh, this cause is hot right now, so I'm going to hop onto that bandwagon, and this cause is hot right now, so I'm going to hop in onto that bandwagon. I don't operate like that. I figured out, I believe, why I'm here. And I believe one of the reasons why I'm here is to talk about why confusion is your virtue and you don't need to be ashamed about not having all the answers. I think I'm here to talk about the importance of going inward and not running through life trying to find validation and purpose in the superficial and in the external things. I'm really about going inward is where everything lies inward. And then from that place, you create what you really desire.
And it comes back to that idea of like the cure to the confusion is the curiosity. Was there like a moment for you when you were doing that work? And you mentioned that you went into depression, and it sounds like from what you're saying, it was a pretty deep depression. Was there like, I'm in recovery, so like so we talk about like either hitting rock bottom or a light bulb moment. was there one or both of those for you? And
both. I had both. Like my rock bottom was I had lost control of what I was thinking about entirely. And my mental loop was completely focused on my shortcomings, how I wasn't good enough. I would think about everything negative, like perceived rejections, even maybe when I wasn't rejected, but it was like how I perceived myself as being rejected or how I perceived myself as not being good enough. And that I wasn't where I just pick a random person and be like, well, I'm not where they're at. I mean, just like crazy, like, let's figure out how we can make yourself feel like the lowest low life in the world when I'm not a low life and I'm a good person. I'm having an issue right now.
It's funny. I used to think in some of my work around mental health that it's most prominent and obvious in my neurodiverse clients. They'll often come in and they will compare themselves to their peers who are of the same age. And I like to remind them, well, it's impossible to be behind on your own path, right? And our own path isn't set by age. But then over time, I began to realize, no, it's not just my neurodiverse clients. It's my neurodiverse clients who are blunt enough to say it out loud. But it's that the vast majority of people that I'm running into are comparing themselves to something at some point, and it doesn't help.
No, it's this theory that the grass is always greener, but the grass is greener where you water it. And that is the real truth. It's because you don't know what's happening on somebody else's grass. I mean, there could be a lot of dark stuff happening on that grass, So it's like water your own. You were put here because I do think we're spiritual beings, right? But we come here into this physical body where we're separate from each other and we live in separate homes, separate bodies, like different cultures, different religions, different everything, right? So it makes you feel very separate from other people. But actually, at the end of the day, we're all on our own journey with our own destinies and our own things that we're trying to learn here. And so you don't need to look at somebody else because they're on the journey too.
Yeah, and the reality too, the problem with comparisons is we often get stuck in those moments in our setbacks, and our setbacks are often like the moments where we grow the most. We grow from a failure, and it's a very difficult time to see clearly. But I think if you look back over life, most people will probably find that they've learned more from their failures and their darkest moments than they have their successes. So that was your rock bottom. What was the light bulb?
So the light bulb was, it was like, I feel so low that my ego kind of left. I mean, I still have an ego. I'm not like Eckhart Tolle, but it was like nothing mattered anymore.
Life humbled you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was kind of like I was brought to my knees, and all the things I think I identified with that I felt gave me value, like having a cool boyfriend, having a cool job, having some money, like everything got taken away. I was like single, I was broke, I didn't have a job anymore. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. And I just feel awful about myself. And I'm like, I just can't even care what anybody thinks about me anymore. I just could care less. I could care less. All I want in this moment, all I want right now, my greatest intention is to feel good in my skin without it being attached to anything else. That was my greatest at that moment when the ego left. And I was like, I can't even have an ego because I feel so shit, you know? I was like, I just don't care. Fuck it all, you know? And I was just kind of like, well, you know,
It's
um,
freeing. It's
yeah,
freeing.
there was a freedom there. There
Mhm.
was a freedom there.
People
And
joke people joke with me. They were like, "I wish I could not care as much as you do." And I mean, to some extent, in a lot of ways, there's some truth to it. I have a friend who's a psychologist who said to me, she's like, "It's not that you don't care. It's like you generally don't care about most things, except for when you do. And when you do, you're all in. But the rest of it, you don't care." And I'm like, yeah, that is kind of like the best summary of how I have found peace is to be passionate about the things I care about, to keep that list short, and to just let go of the rest. And it's easier said than done. And I think it's different for everyone's personality. But there is something really freeing about it's almost like you're giving the world and the rest of the people in it agency. Like you don't have to paint my story for me. You don't have to play this role. This job doesn't have to play this role. I'm gonna paint my own story. And not that I'm gonna do it alone or walk away, but it it really empowers you, I think, to chart your own course and then allow who you want and who wants to be on that journey with you.
yeah, yeah. And I just really think like if your whole existence has been about, uh, extra, like making a ton of money, possessing power over people, controlling situations, whatever it is, and you die, you've lost the plot. Like you lost it. You lost the plot. Why isn't being a good human being, being a decent, honest human being enough? You know, like what is this? I need this. 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 And it's a never ending thing. And when you are, and I
As,
will
as you were describing that, I was thinking to myself, is she describing a Wall Street broker or a serial killer?
Well, I mean, just it could be honestly, it could be anyone. It could be anyone because even if you are that nice person, but you're like, oh, it's not enough. I'm not enough. I need this. I
Mhm.
need this. I need this, because that's what society is projecting on you. Why can't you just be happy? And listen, you could make a ton of money. You could not. You could have 100 Louis Vuitton bags, whatever. It doesn't matter. But it's like if you identify your worth with something outside of yourself, everything outside of you can be taken away. Your loved ones can be taken away. Your your
And they will be.
and they will be. Your finances can be taken away. Your home. I mean, look at what just happened. I'm in Los Angeles.
You know?
I'm 10
Yeah.
miles from the Palisades. Their home was taken away. My mom even told me, she's like, in the height. She's like, you need to pack a bag and you need to be thinking about what you want to take. And I was like, ah. And, so it's like everything could literally, their entire life got incinerated. And it's like everything can be taken away. So who are you? And I think if you never discover that in your life, I feel like you wasted a bit of a life.
Well,
And
as you were talking, I was just kind of thinking that, and I'm curious what you think about this, that, that idea of control. I think part of the reason why we as humans try to control things is because of our fear of the unknown, right?
absolutely.
And I get it and I understand it, because the unknown could be very, very, very scary. But that's also the place for curiosity, like you've been talking about. That's also the place where that occurs. And I think sort of that idea that you were just talking about, kind of weaving together some of what you've seen, that letting go of having to sort of build this perfect life, perfect career, perfect relationship allowed you to be curious again and explore like a little kid and not be afraid of what scary thing might be behind that door that you can't see, or adventure that's coming in the next moment. Is that fair?
Oh my gosh, that's so spot on. Like bullseye, Jason, bullseye. I mean, it is exactly that. It's like I felt like I had lost not everything, but I felt like I had lost some things that I like had aligned my sense of worth with.
Sure.
And but also I still had some really nice things. Like I still had a great car, I still had a great home. I had some things that other people could work half of their lifetime to get. And I had those already. So I was like, okay, so superficial things don't bring you happiness. Like it's very temporary, the happiness they bring you. Okay, got it. Also, everything can be taken away from you. Check. Okay, so if that's the case, then what is life? What's the goal? Why am I here? What am I doing? And so once I was able, exactly like you said, to kind of like just to have that knowing, then I went on this adventure. And then that's actually when I started a video blog. It was like over a decade ago, called it's on YouTube. It's still on there. It's called Confused Girl in the City. And every week I did one new thing. I started the video blog as every new week I was going to do one new thing to help me discover who I was and why I'm here. And it was so cute because I just watched the first video I ever made, which is like totally cringe because technology has improved and I've improved and like everything's improved. But
It's actually kind of cute. I saw it.
see it.
Yes. I went back and
Like,
looked at some of them. Yep.
God, I love you. I love you. I literally was watching the first one and I said something. I was like, wow, that was profound. I said, I'm hoping by doing enough things that don't lead to anywhere, it leads to somewhere. And
Mm.
that was the goal. The goal was to discover myself. That was the whole goal.
Mm.
And it was amazing. And coming from that place, it's so exciting because it's like, oh, I'm gonna take Giovanna, right? I'm gonna take myself out on this little adventure to discover something. And then you start looking at life like this grand adventure. Then when somebody comes in your life, you're like, ooh, what are you trying to tell me? What are you like, what's going on here? And even when it's a painful experience, it's like, ooh, that was interesting.
Well, it's like Lewis Carroll wrote in Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do.
yes.
And that truly, if you don't have a specific objective, any path you might choose could lead you to where you truly want to be, or it may not, but it can. And it will certainly, to your point about journey, it'll certainly give you insights that will help you find your way.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, part of the whole thing is figuring out what you don't want and what you don't like. And then once you do something where like, I enjoy this, then incorporating that in your life. And then that's cultivating joy. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, what do I want to do? What am I good at? What do I really enjoy? What lights me on fire? Okay, you know what? I think I'll like this. Let me do this, you know? I mean, it's and honestly, we're so lucky to be in this era where we can try different things. And I mean, look at you. Like you have a podcast and you're expressing yourself and helping people in this way. And I wrote a book. And it's
Yeah. It sounds like for both of us, neither of those things were part of the plan.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I wasn't like, "Oh," well, podcasts probably didn't even exist when you were growing up, and I never thought, "Oh, I'm gonna write a book, I wanna become a writer." The influencer thing just happened, so that wasn't even something I planned on doing.
How did it happen? People just started watching the videos and
Well, what happened is, after I, like, had started doing my one new thing every week, and I was doing a lot of yoga, and I loved yoga, and granted, you have to think this is a decade ago. So, yoga was still more niche, and, there wasn't a lot of yoga clothes. I mean, it was like Lululemon and then a couple of very small brands. And I thought, "You know what? I'm gonna create a yoga wear line inspired by healing crystals." Because this healer, that's a whole other story, but this healer gave me these 2 amazing, huge crystals that I adore.
healer.
And I like
Stop. Healer. Go ahead.
yeah, it's so LA. I'm like, you have to remember I'm in Los Angeles. This is a very LA story. That is not lost on me. That is not lost on me.
Go ahead. Tell me about the healer. I feel like we can't just drive by that.
So I was working part-time jobs because again, I was doing one new thing every week. I didn't want to go into a job and hate it and to be miserable and do the whole thing over again. So I'm finding part-time gigs all over LA. So one of the part-time gigs I found was interviewing a healer for his YouTube channel. So I applied for
Oh.
Yeah. And so I applied for it and he's a pretty famous healer. So I applied for it. He said, "Yes, come, like I'll interview you." So I get to his house, right? Cuz he has a home office. And I get to his house, and of course I was safe. I told all my friends where I was going. Everybody knew where I was. And I walk into his home and I felt like I was home for the first time in my life.
Hmm. Wow, that's kind of cool. What was it?
Oh my god, it was crazy. It was just this like how you would imagine kinda going to heaven or something, or going to the other side. It was and I love my home where I live, but I don't feel this way when I come into my home, and my home is very my home. Um, this was like just encompassed in love, and I started crying, and he's like, It's okay, you're okay." And oh my god, I had this, like, crazy soul connection with him, and he had this room full of crystals, and he was like, "Just take 2 crystals that you love, take them home with you." And when I was leaving, he told me, he goes, "I told you we would meet again," meaning we, like,
Mm.
knew each other in
Already
passing
met. Yeah.
and stuff, yeah.
That's
And
kind
I
of
know
cool.
oh my god, no, it was crazy, like, the whole thing was
I
just crazy.
by the way, I do believe in those kinds of connections like that. There have been certain people I've met in my life where it is just felt like they have always been with me on some level.
Yeah.
And, as people have passed on, my mom died in October of 2023. I still feel like she's with me. And it's really interesting. There's no question. Like the way that I talk, the way that I think, the way that I love, all come from my mom. And then people I've met where like it's this instant. connection, as if you're thinking and connected in that same way. So, you know, I've become a believer in that idea of these certain kinds of spiritual connections that we have with people. I can't believe you were going to drive by this part.
I feel like it's such a story, and I'm just like, and it's so, and I'm not an airy fairy person. I'm a Virgo. I'm very grounded. I'm very practical. So I feel like it's also sounds very airy fairy. And so I just don't
Well, I'm neither of those things, neither grounded nor practical. So keep on going.
perfect. And so I guess and also it was such a special moment for me. I guess I kind of, I mean, I've talked about it before on a podcast.
I mean, think about what you're saying though. You started that yoga wear brand based on 2 crystals that he gave you.
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
without you applying for that job, walking in that house, getting those 2 crystals, we're probably not here having this conversation
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
strangers right now. You're probably not doing what you're doing right now. And, like, it's like that movie, the Gwyneth Paltrow movie with it's the sliding door moment,
Doors. Yes.
right? Yeah, like it's one of your sliding door moments.
It's a sliding door moment. And I have to say, like, he was such a pivotal part of my destiny because I do believe in destiny. I do believe that there are people we're supposed to meet. And he was such a huge pivotal part. I think he was there to remind me that I'm loved. I'm loved by the powers that be, you know? And like the universe loves me, whatever you want to call it. Universe, God, consciousness, whatever. It loves me and I'm on the right path and just keep going. And that's how I actually really do feel in my life. I had a friend tell me, she's like, "You're very good at following the breadcrumbs that the universe leaves for you." I mean, the
Hmm.
whole book was breadcrumbs. I mean, it was total bread.
Hmm.
And I do. I think because I had tried to do it so differently to begin with and it didn't work. And I am very logical. I'm like, I tried to do things like society told me, and I ended up in a really deep depression and very unhappy. So I'm gonna do things differently. I'm gonna work with the universe. I'm gonna trust in myself. I'm going to pray, meditate, yoga. I'm going to because I'm a doer. So it's like, but I want to do in the right direction.
Well, you're a much better person than me. I like to learn my lessons 16 times again. You know that line that people say, what is that line? Oh, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, like, imagine you delete the part about expecting a different result. That's me. I would do the same thing over and over again. I'm like, the results is not going to change. This is not going to hurt me less. Um, and sometimes I find that piece of it to be just because, like, I'm an idiot and I want to keep on repeating it and eventually win. Sometimes it's very aligned with my values, right? Like, this is a dumb idea. It's going to hurt, but I care about people, so I'm going to do this, right? Like, so it's got its upsides and downsides, but I do find it kind of like admirable of you to, at such an early time in your life, recognize that it wasn't that, and this is kind of cool, that it wasn't so much that there was something deeply wrong with you, but that there was something deeply wrong with the script of what you were supposed what society was telling you were supposed to do in your life, that it was wrong for you. And I am curious, like, how you got past that part or that voice inside of some of us that, particularly in those down moments, that says, like, it's me that's the problem.
Well, I did I did think I was the problem. I did. And I had a lot of actually self-hate. I had a lot of self-hate, but I knew I did. And I think that's wherein lies the difference. I think if you're conscious of it, then you can change it. So like the first step is to be conscious of it. And so I was like, okay, I have a lot of self-hate. And this is the way I think about life. And this is the way I think about myself. And this is the way I think about things. And this is not good. Because it literally came down to, it was like a total fork in the road for me, a real fork in the road, where I was like, okay, either I need to totally reprogram myself to think and feel differently, or I don't want to be here anymore. And
Mm.
it was that clear to me. I was like, if I'm not able to fix this, I don't want to be here anymore because life isn't worth living feeling the way I was feeling.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, well, let's warrior up. I mean, we put so much energy and time into your film industry career and your college and your this and your that and your family. So now let's put this energy and care into you and see if we can sort this out and make this better.
So I have a question for you. I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
ask. I was just thinking about all the things that you've said, and like I did research, so and I've seen other profiles. Like one of the things about being any kind of lifestyle influencer, social media influencer, you have a high profile, you engage with your audience because that's a part of it, right? Like
yeah,
for you guys, as opposed to the people who become, let's say, celebrities through a movie or become a musician, where often at some point you start to have layers and layers of buffers between you and your audience. It's not so true for those of you guys who do something grassroots, like start your blog and then start your activewear company. They're not those same layers, at least for a good chunk of it. And in doing that research, like I've seen some of the crazy comments that people will make. And I've seen just, I think, a lot of attention, a lot of pressure, a lot of requests for help or moments where people need encouragement, a lot of rude stuff, right? Like there's all these inputs. Like
yeah.
how do you deal with that and stay healthy?
You know, so the Instagram thing I started because I started this activewear line. So that's where I was going with it. Is I started the activewear line, and this was again a decade ago. So Instagram was more open, and it wasn't, there wasn't as many users as, I mean, there's still a lot of users, but not as many as now. And um my whole thing was to sell my yoga wear on by using Instagram. So I came on there not trying to show myself. I came on there trying to show my line of yoga clothes. And at first, I actually hired models to model them, and I would put their pictures
Mm.
up on my Instagram, and I wouldn't take pictures of myself and put it up. And like, kind of like Nike. I mean, the CEO of Nike isn't wearing Nike clothes. I mean, I was trying to do it more like that. And I met with this man who, for lunch, who was in the industry. And he told me I had like, star quality and blah, blah. I mean, he's probably real. I think he maybe did mean that, but he was definitely probably trying to get in my pants. But I'm actually really good at like getting the good info and then running away and being like, thanks, bye, got what I needed here.
Oh,
And
appreciate it. See you later.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be Me Too'd right now. Like, no, not going to happen. And I'm too smart. My daddy raised me right. And so, I went out to lunch with him at the Grove, and lunch is a good one because like in the day you're not drinking. And he said he wanted to give me some advice. I was like, yeah, go ahead, please do. And I actually met him at a store. My leggings were in a store on Melrose, and the owner was this Turkish lady. And so I would just stop by and have like coffee with her. And we would just like sit and chat. Like she really loved me. I really loved her. And she was always happy when I would come by and I'd be like, did any leggings sell? And, we just talk. And that was the first, her store was the first store I ever got my clothing into. And he came in and she knew him. So that's how that happened. Anyway, go to lunch with him. And he was like, I don't want to see these other girls in your leggings. You're your brand. I want to see you at the Grove in your leggings. I want to see you on the Santa Monica Pier in your leggings. I want to see you on the Venice Boardwalk in your leggings. I want to see you. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, and then it just was like light bulb. And I'm like, ooh, the universe wanted me to hear this. I was like, thank you. Okay, bye-bye. I gotta go now take pictures of myself in my leggings.
Right.
and so so I was like, okay, so it was never about me trying to show a lifestyle. It was about me being an entrepreneur and trying to get my brand out there when I have no money. And so I was like, okay, well, if I have to, which I was not comfortable taking pictures of myself initially. And I was like, if I have to do this, then I have to do this. And because especially my generation, we really grew up with like, you need to be a size 0 to be a model. And I've never been a size 0, maybe
Mm.
some in a size 2, but I have never been a size 0. I got hips and booty for days. Okay. Like I'm not a size 0. And so I was like, okay, well, whatever. And so my ego was never really in it to begin with. So sure, sometimes people have said something that kind of bothered me for a moment, but I'm like, whatever. I don't care. This isn't the purpose of this. And then it was like one thing led to the next. And then, my yoga wear line started to really take off. It was doing super well. And then I was like, oh, I love travel. I want to start traveling in my yoga clothes and promoting it that way. Then because of the Instagram following I got from my yoga gear, I started getting free trips and 5-star hotels. And I was like, well, I'm going to enjoy this. And so I started doing all of that. And then I was like, well, my yoga brand's doing really well and it's enough to support me. I'm going to leave the country I left for 2 years to write my book.
Oh, wow. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like connecting the dots. And the thing is, what's so beautiful when you commit to your journey and you commit to the unknown, like you don't even know the amazing things that are coming your way. You're just going, okay, now I go here.
Mm.
Now I go here. And it's so magical.
It is really beautiful the way that it goes. The just sort of like thinking about where you're headed in the future and headed with this, where could you imagine it going?
Mm, I mean, where can I imagine it going? People ask me what's next for you. And I say, you know what? Getting this book written and published has been a 7-year, journey here. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying doing this podcast. I'm going to enjoy, I'm writing lots of articles about the book for different publishing outlets. I'm enjoying the whole process. And I do have an idea for another book.
Hmm.
I do. And I'll start working on that when I kind of have it all in my head already. And I'll start working on that when I feel like it's appropriate. And I kind of, with my film and TV background, I kind of feel something at some point is going to be put on the screen, the TV screen or the film
Hmm.
screen. I kind of have that feeling. So I have dreams. I have more dreams. I have more things that I'd love to do. But right now, I'm just like, let this unfold. Let's just see. It's been unfolding way bigger and better than I had imagined. So I'm like, let's just keep doing. Like, let's keep going on this track,
Right. Well, I mean, and I think, if what you sort of feel is that you're finding fulfillment and contentment, then it doesn't really matter what the next thing is, as long as it's in keeping with, it sounds like for you, this ability to grow and try new things and explore and be confident in who you are. As we're wrapping up, I wanted to give you a chance for some closing thoughts. And I think you said a lot of like really profound things in my mind, particularly that notion of uncertainty and confusion being the fertile ground if you're open to new ideas for your curiosity to kind of lead you along the way. And also, I think the things that you certainly said about dealing with your depression, and even if it doesn't get to depression for people, those moments in life where it feels very dark and you feel very lost and you feel very confused. I'm wondering what kind of message you would have for people, or even for your older self, but for people who are struggling with some of those things right now that you were back then.
I would say the first step is just to accept it all. The first step is just to be like, you know, I'm depressed. I feel like I hate myself right now, if that's the case, or whatever the case is, you know, just get really raw and real with yourself. Like, have no shame in your game because you're not the only one. That's the thing. A lot of the shame comes from you think you're the only one. It feels very
Mm.
isolating when you're in that space. I've been there. I think you kind of said you were there.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's like if you haven't been there, then if people
I've
haven't
been
been there,
there,
they
back, been there, back out again.
but I think I think the first step is just being really real about it and being very honest with yourself. And then the next step is like, what can I do to help myself? Because that's already by saying you accept yourself, already by just accepting yourself in that moment. And then by saying, well, what can I do to help myself? That's self love.
Mm.
So already by doing saying those two things to yourself, doing those two things, you're already practicing self-love. So you're
Mm.
already combating the hate or the shame or the fear. You're already combating it.
Yeah.
So it can't fully possess you when you have that other part in you. And
Yeah.
then and then it becomes, I think, a path of reprogramming yourself. And you have to be disciplined within that. And I don't know, some people that might be, seeing it depends on the severity, right? So for some people, it might just be starting a daily meditation, having a gratitude journal to start reprogramming yourself to think about things you're grateful for. Start seeing, being aware of when you're being negative and going, wait, you know what? I don't want to be negative right now. Like, let me bless this situation. Let me turn this situation around. Let's have a different perspective in this situation. So it's combating that negativity. And then for other people, it might be a chemical imbalance. You might need to have seek different forms of therapy like medication, or I love neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is something I did that really helped me, and it's basically, because mine has to do a lot with anxiety as well. And so, neurofeedback, it basically helps you not go to fight or flight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Along with things like EMDR and other mental health treatments that can really decrease the likelihood that you're going to fight, freeze, fawn, or
Yeah.
fan. And I like that idea that like
Yeah.
looking for it inside yourself, seeking professional help when it can be available. I think also not being afraid to trying multiple things. And I just think
Mhm.
of I think of that moment for me where like I proudly put my tinfoil hat on and said, you know what, I'm proud of my tinfoil hat and I'm going to go out there and be me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
A-
yeah.
And
Like,
one last thing I'll say, this this is kind of a funny, interesting one. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but the first thing I did when I started my video blog of trying new things is I went bungee jumping. That was the first new thing I did. And I did not like it. I realized I was not an adrenaline junkie and I never want to go bungee jumping again. But wow, did I feel courageous.
mm,
And you can't be depressed when you're doing that and you're getting yourself to jump off of a bridge where there's like just rocks and dirt below you and you actually get yourself to jump and then your adrenaline system, everything goes crazy. And then they pull you up and you're like shaking because your body is like, oh my God, I just could have died, So like my whole body was shaking for like an hour afterward. But I was like, I can do anything. It gives you confidence. If
mm,
I can jump off of a bridge, with a bungee, I bungee jumped. I didn't I
mhm.
didn't try to hurt myself. I'm like, but if I can do that, then I can do anything. Really, what can't you do if you can
And
jump,
yeah,
you
if you
know?
could, yeah, yeah. I completely buy that. And I also completely but by sort of like the flip of that same thing, kind of tying it back to something you said, if you can make it through a depression like that, if you can make it through suffering like that, what
Mhm.
can't you make it through?
Exactly.
Mm,
Exactly. So and the thing is, and this comes from the reprogramming and the perspective shifting. Why isn't that a success? Right? Why you need to look at that as a success. That has to be I just accepted that I'm depressed. I am getting help. I made it through. That's a success. That's a greater
mm,
than making $10 million because I'm still here. And maybe the person that did make $10 million and feels like that, they're not here anymore. So it's like, we have to change our definitions of what it is to be successful in this life.
right. I think that's a great note to end on. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about it. I think people will find it encouraging and interesting. And I think if they're out there, on social media, sort of feeling kind of beaten up or bad, I think you're a good place that's authentic to follow. And I think, especially for a lot of women, I think your book is a powerful thing because I do think we judge women for being confused in a way that we don't judge men. And yeah, so anyway, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
You're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for this conversation. If you'd like to join us for more discussions with me and other listeners, we can be found on most social media platforms, including a listener run Facebook group called the Silver Linings Fireside Chat. For deeper conversations with our guests and live conversations with other listeners, you can also join us on our Patreon at www.patreon.com/the Silver Linings Handbook. I'm Jason Blair, and this is the Silver Linings Handbook podcast. We'll see you all again in a few days.